we're going to start then. So welcome to Concurrent Session 1.3. You have been assigned to the room Interdisciplinary Global Citizenship Education for Tertiary and Pre-Service Education. My name is Chris Castle. I'm from UNESCO in Paris, and it's my great pleasure to be moderating this concurrent session today. I imagine we may still have some of our colleagues trickle in because it's quite an adventure to get through the elevators in this hotel, as we probably all discovered. It likes to stop in lots of different floors on its way. So for the next 90 minutes, we're going to have a discussion on tertiary and pre-service education in relation to global citizenship education. We're going to start with presentations from three esteemed colleagues. Then we're going to have an opportunity for discussion following that. We may have an opportunity after each presentation for a little bit of clarification or questions if there's a burning need to do that. And that's kind of the plan for the next 90 minutes. There is, I believe, interpretation for those of you who wish to have it in Korean or in English, but I think all of our presenters are speaking in English today. So what's going to happen is each speaker is going to come up after I introduce them and make their presentation, and then following the three presentations, the entire panel will come up here at the front table and we will have our discussion. So today we have Natia, who tells me I shouldn't even attempt to say her family name because it's really difficult to pronounce. She is an expert on democratic citizenship and a member of the Bureau of Education Committee of the Council of Europe in Georgia. After her, we will have Bisala Sala, who's the Principal Education Officer of Federal Ministry of Education in Nigeria. And then finally, we will hear from Serafin Arviola Jr., who's the Director of GCED Cooperation Center, Philippines at the Philippine Normal University. So those are our three presenters, and without further ado, I'd like to invite Natia to come up and begin her presentation.
Thank you, Christopher. Good morning, everybody. My name is Natia Natsvlishvili. Very complicated last name, I know. That's why you can simply call me Natia. Today, this morning, I'll talk about GCED and pre-service teacher education programs in Georgia. But before I will explain what we are doing for future teachers, I will give you a very short background information. Just can you help me with this? I'm not sure if it's work. Thank you. If you will ask me where is global citizenship education in Georgian education system, I will simply tell you that it's everywhere or almost everywhere. Everywhere means that it's very nicely written in educational documents regulating education policy and practice in Georgia. And why we are doing this? Yesterday, my director, Professor Berika Shukakidze, was talking about importance of global citizenship education and transformative education for people who are trying to liberate themselves from so-called post-Soviet mental set, Soviet mental cages. So for us, it's very important to feel that we are part of the global citizenship, global society. And yesterday we talked a lot that it's important to try to live peacefully in the diverse society, in this interconnected society. And Mr. Castle is representing the Peace and Sustainable Division of UNESCO. And in Georgia, when we are saying in the morning each other and we are saying good morning, we don't say good morning. We say have a morning of peace. At the evening, we say, have an evening of peace, have an evening of night. So peace for us is like codified in the language. It's part of our historical and national understanding, how we want to live, what we want to do in our lives. So living peacefully together in the universe is a key message for us, for ourselves. So it's really important to do everything, to invest everything to live peacefully in the universe together. In my 15 minutes, I'll try to cover three main dimensions: curriculum, research, and practical implementation dimensions of what we are doing in education system in Georgia. I feel quite lucky that everybody knows what's this very beautiful, nice butterfly. Yesterday, Mr. Kalin Rus was talking about reference framework of competencies for democratic culture. Georgia was part of the development and implementation of the framework from very early beginning, and we use RFCDC, as we call very shortly. We use RFCDC as an entry point to other conceptual areas. Mr. Aaron mentioned yesterday that there are two levels, conceptual and operational levels. Conceptually, this is entry point for us to go to peace education, to go to intercultural education, global citizenship education, education for democratic citizenship and human rights education. For every nice concept is behind this butterfly, because for us it became very practical instrument. We have 20 nice competencies. There's everything. Yesterday we talked about empathy and we talked about responsibility. They're here. But behind we have descriptors, 447 descriptors describing very concretely how these nice competencies should be transferred into practice. So this pedagogical instrument is, I would like to say again, like entry point to global citizenship areas. There you will find climate education, environmental education, and conflict resolution skills and everything. So for us, this is really a key message. As for the national basics for pre-service teacher education programs, I have to mention that first of all, we have national education strategy. Internationally, our strategy is based on two documents. The first is Sustainable Development Goals, and another, I already mentioned, RFCDC, Reference Framework for Competencies for Democratic Culture. So everything we are doing in education should be based on the national strategy. Then we have national qualification frameworks, where explicitly is written again and again about citizenship education. National education standards for teachers and school principals are also mentioning about citizenship education, human rights education, and democratic culture. And national curriculum, now we are implementing so-called third generation national curriculum, which means that newest one. The characteristics for our national curriculum can be said that it's very, very democratic. We have three options. Global citizenship education is for us transversal responsibility for all teaching levels and all subject teachers. So everybody, sports teacher, literature teacher, physics teacher, should work on citizenship education as well. But also we have separate subjects, me and society for primary education, citizenship education for basic and secondary and upper secondary education levels. But also we have subject blocks, sciences, where you will find more information about, for instance, climate education. And so curriculum is very flexible for us, and they're everything, theoretically and practically. Official part of our national curriculum is working on projects. Yesterday, Mr. Berika Shukakidze mentioned that we are offering school project to teachers and students. So every teacher should work on formally. It's part of formal education. It's not an informal or non-formal activity. On school projects where they should reflect on citizenship education themes and topics. And also we have, it's already second year, every teacher who wants to get certificate, so-called qualification certificate, should work on citizenship education themes as well on the national exams. Up to 20 universities are implementing in Georgia pre-service teacher education programs. There are private universities, state universities, regional universities. Personally, I teach in 5 universities in Georgia, and we are trying to prepare our teachers how to work in a diverse, multicultural, intercultural world, and we are trying to equip them with the modern teaching strategies and knowledge and skills and everything. So universities are implementing bachelor, master, and so-called 60-credit preparation courses. 60-credit courses are getting more and more popular because it's a short way to become teachers, and also universities are offering training courses, training modules for in-service teachers to society. And last time became very popular to develop studies and research on intercultural education, global citizenship education, and democratic competencies for democratic culture. Specifications of the courses are diverse, but generally we say that we have 1 semester, 15 weeks courses. I'm not mentioning about number of credits because it's up to universities. They are deciding based on their program structures about the number of credits. But the main courses we are implementing in this direction are intercultural education, human rights education, children's rights, democratic culture and human rights, and sustainable development goals. These are mandatory courses, and I will say again, every university in Georgia who is preparing future teachers are organizing these courses. We know that for educators, resources are everything. Without resources, we cannot do nothing. From 2009, we are very actively implementing resources from the Council of Europe about education for democratic citizenship and human rights education. Every school is receiving free at least 2 copies of the materials, but also we are implementing very nice, and I propose you to check later livingdemocracy.com. It's free. Resources for teachers, for school principals, and for parents, how to build a democratic society together. This platform is developed by the Zurich University for the teacher education, and it's supported by the Council of Europe, and we are lucky that we have these resources in Georgian as well. This is multilingual web page, and already 14 languages are there, so maybe you will find your language as well, or maybe later, I don't know. We are developing journals, magazines. National Center for Teachers Professional Development is developing the journal about global citizenship education. And from November, from the last week of October, we will have very solid list of APSEU materials in Georgian. So resources are everywhere. And I mentioned that in my presentation, I will cover implementation, practical dimension as well. So education, e-house is part of this practical dimension. National Center for Teachers Professional Development decided to collect everything, every resource and every service which is for educators, collect on the educational platform, and to offer free for it's not only for teachers or for future teachers, it's for everybody who wants to contribute to this work. On the practical level, we have also state program in the National Center for Teachers' Professional Development, Democratic Culture and Human Rights Education. A state program, when I'm saying this, means that we have state budget, human resources dedicated to this work. And we are not working only for in-service or pre-service programs. It's again and again for everybody who wants to participate in this work. Very, very shortly about achievements and challenges. I can proudly say that our main achievement is availability and accessibility. I said at the beginning that global citizenship education is literally everywhere in Georgian education system. But sometimes, not sometimes, but very often, universities are complaining that because of the low status of teachers' profession, results are not what we really want to have. And also, it's a big problem that sometimes it's not very strong link between universities and schools. Universities are investing a lot to prepare future teachers, but the link for the future workplace, it's not enough strong. We are trying to invest more in this way and to build very strong bridges. Here I have my contact details. If you will have any questions, reflections, or need some clarifications, just feel free to send a message, maybe later. Now I'm ready for your questions. If you have any comments, please feel free. Thank you.
So thanks very much, Natia, for your presentation. Are there any comments, questions for clarification before we move on to the next presentation? I think it was pretty clear. Not seeing any hands. So, okay, thanks very much. We'll look forward to having you join us for the discussion. Now I'd like to invite our next presenter, which will be Bisala Sala from Nigeria. Please come up.
Next presentation, please. Good morning. I bring the warmest regards, greetings from Nigeria. I've already been introduced. I'm an education officer working with the Federal Ministry of Education. Thank you very much. The director, staff of APSU, and my co-participants. Thank you for having me here. Well, the title of my presentation is GCED, a pivot for pre-service teachers' education. I think basically my topic has already been discussed yesterday, especially at the third plenary. But I will seek permission from the moderator to do a recap, to use my presentation as a recap in order to save time. Okay, these are the contents we'll talk about, the 4 pillars of learning, the 4 thematic areas and 3 learning domains of GCED. GCED and the pre-service teachers' education, the importance of GCED in the pre-service teachers' education program, and of course, the way forward. Before I start, I just want us to have a reflection or have an imagination of you being a learner in a classroom, and a subject teacher walks in, and only for you as a learner to discover that the teacher has nothing to offer. How will you feel? I'm very sure you'll all be confused, but we'll come to that answer later. And also, I want you to put yourself in a position of being a facilitator or a teacher in class, where you come into a classroom, your learners are all prepared to learn, to hear from you. And it turns out that you yourself, being a teacher, has nothing to offer. You're saying things out of context. Have that imagination within you. We'll come to that. Yeah, this is a brief introduction, which I believe has been taken care of yesterday. But here, I just want to lay emphasis here on the third paragraph, which says, the teacher is a vessel of which formal education is transmitted to learners. That's a very key word, or one of the major functions of being a teacher. You transmit. The mind is just like passing an information to a blank mind, where the state of a child, the mind is kind of completely blank. You need to fill in that space. Without that, I don't think we're all here to learn. And we should also have it in mind that GCED, let's look at the second paragraph. At the same time, we cannot overlook the role of education in inculcating the non-cognitive learning outcome, such as value, ethics, social responsibility, civic engagement, and citizenship. That's also a key factor of you being a teacher. Now, the 4 pillars of education, which I believe, we basically know. The first is learning to know. As a blank slate, there's always that urge to know things. And it should interest us that there's this feeling we normally have that when you know something, you keep and continually want to know more about that same thing. True or false? True or false? And also, it is about acquiring the ability to know, explore, and understand the world. And which is basically why we are here. We are here to learn, to know, isn't it? Good. Then the second pillar, learning to be. We've known certain things. We want to be like that thing, and also to develop ourselves on that. Like, let me use myself as a typical example. I've heard about the MDG goals, the MDGs, which later transcended to the SDG. But sincerely speaking, GCED was recently known by me. And ever since I got to know about GCED, I never relented. I keep making effort to know, and if I'm to evaluate myself, I'll call myself a global citizen. Thanks to APSEU. Thank you. Then learning to live together. In Nigeria, I don't know if people use broom here to sweep, but those of us from Africa, and I think some part of the Asian countries, there's what we use in sweeping. We call it broom. You can easily break a stick, but you hardly break a bunch. So living together means strength. We can always overcome challenges when we stand in unity than being separate. Learning to do. This pillar consists of developing all their individual skills. As a result, they become independent and responsible. Therefore, this pillar includes all the pillars previously mentioned. This is one of the greatest pillars to me, because it's really unfortunate that the world is faced with so many challenges. What do we need to do? Take action, not just sit down and look. Action is what is required here. We know these problems. The problems have been analyzed. But what next? Taking action. Then the 4 thematic areas and 3 learning domains of GCED. Here, the thematic areas of GCED. To understand selves and others. I need to understand myself to know my neighbor. I need to understand my culture to understand your own culture. If I don't understand your culture, definitely conflict will come in, true or false. But when we get to understand each other, and interestingly, let me say something. There's always similarities in our culture, in one way or the other. There's always a connection in one way or the other. The third, understand global challenges and opportunities. I think basically we know what the world is facing. We know our challenges. Until we understand those challenges, we'll never have a way to solve those challenges. Then taking action for collective well-being and sustainable development. It's very easy to destroy. Very easy. A single bomb can destroy this building in a matter of seconds. But to rebuild the same structure, you know what it cost. True or false? Good. Then building peace and resolving conflict. It is natural in we humans to always have conflict. It's very natural. Very, very natural and human. But resolving those conflicts is what should be paramount in everything we do. Yeah, there are situations where your colleague makes you angry, but it takes maturity to handle such scenarios. Then the learning domains, the cognitive, we have the social emotional domain, behavioral domain. In the cognitive, to acquire knowledge, understand, and critically think about global, regional, national, and local issues. Here, I think the home is usually the first point of call. You're born in a home and not a society. If you have peace in your home, if you practice GCED in your home, definitely the home makes the community. The community makes the society, and the society makes the larger community. Then social emotional domain. To have a sense of belonging, you must belong somewhere. You belong to a home. That home is located in a community. That community in a society. There's no way, you can't just be on your own. No man is an island to himself. And that is where the issue of connectivity comes in. Then behavioral domain, to act effectively and responsibly. Well, I carried out a project which was sponsored by APCU, and I worked with the children at the basic and secondary level. And sincerely speaking, I've been receiving reports in terms of change in behavior, where these learners come together to solve problems. It's a very visible result, which we've seen. Then GCED and the pre-service teachers education. Here, I just want to talk more here. To be an effective teacher, it's easy. But to be a responsive teacher is difficult without having the knowledge of GCED. We know the traditional education system which we practice, especially in Nigeria, where the teacher comes into the class, have a one-way communication with the students or learners. And the learners in the other way just believe, okay, give us the notes, give us the materials, we'll read, and when exam comes, we pass. Evaluation then was based on written examinations. But for a teacher to be more effective, GCED has to be inculcated in our curriculum, either directly or indirectly. I can't talk about solving problems in the world to my learners when I have no knowledge about it. So I believe we should empower these teachers with the knowledge of GCED for them to transmit to these learners. And there's always this belief it's a belief in me that at my age, I'm 40, I have little to offer to the world. But with my little son at home and our children, they have much more to solve the world problems. On this note, GCED requires skilled educators to have a good understanding for transformative and preparatory teaching and learning. The main role of the educator is to be a guide or facilitator, encouraging learners to engage in critical inquiries and supporting the development of knowledge, skills, value, attitudes that promote positive personal and social change, which is very vital. You may be a teacher and you come to class and you say, tell the students, 1 + 1 is what? And they tell you 2. And when exam comes, you ask them the same question. 1 + 1, you put a question mark, and they come and put 2, and you give them a red pass. And you think it ends there. But how can they translate what you've taught them into reality? That's where the issue of place-based learning comes in. You take them to a place where there are challenges, and you let them think critically and say, now there's erosion here. How do you think we can prevent this thing in the next 2 or when the next hazard comes? Let them think and proffer solution. The only thing you being an educator is to direct them, guide them, and let them solve problems. This is a continuation. There's a saying that says you cannot give what you don't have, which brings us to the fact that GCED and pre-service teachers education program should aim at enabling learners, 1, to develop and understand global governance, structure, rights and responsibility, global issues, and connection between global, national, and local systems and processes. There's always problem in our homes. If you allow this problem to linger, it will move to the community. If you allow that problem to linger in the community, it will lead to the society. If you allow that problem to linger, you know what it means. It becomes a national issue. And when it becomes a national issue, without offering solutions to solve those problems, it becomes a world problem. We are faced with so much challenges. Climate change, which has really affected some part of Nigeria when it comes to the farming aspect. To recognize and appreciate differences and multiple identities, such as culture, language, religion, gender, and our common humanity, to develop skills for living in an increasingly diverse world. This is my first time of being in South Korea, but sincerely, it's a very nice place to be. The people are very welcoming. They tolerate religion, culture, and I hope to be here someday. Thank you. And this is also the third one, to develop and apply critical skills for civic literacy, such as critical inquiries, information technology, media literacy, critical thinking, decision-making, problem living, negotiation, peace building, and personal social responsibility. These are contents which are all in GCED. And as a teacher, if you don't have this knowledge, there's no way you can teach what you don't have. There's no way. So that's why we really want to plead with the international community. Sometimes to change curriculum, especially in Africa, is usually very difficult. Very difficult. But I believe with proper advocacy and sensitization to the top government office holders, political wills, it can be changed for GCED to be inculcated in our curriculum. Is to develop values of fairness and social justice, skills to critical analyze inequalities based on gender, socio-economic status, culture, religion, and age, and other issues. To participate in and contribute to contemporary global issues at local and... Now, this is also a very vital point, which brings us to the issue of place-based learning or project where you take the learners to where situations are and tell them this is what is affecting our environment today. What do you think the solution can be tomorrow? Let them think outside the box. And I bet you'll be so surprised that these children prefer solutions, alternative solutions, so many to solving these problems. The importance of GCED in the pre-service teachers education program. It helps the student teacher become competent and committed full-time teacher who apply principles and social emotion. To promote teachers as agents of change, which is very vital. You're a guardian, you're a facilitator. So the lifestyle you live is what these children see in you, and they believe is the right way. So if you live the negative way, they will follow you. To promote teachers, okay, to sensitize teachers towards the protection of human rights, promote peace, equality, justice, empathy. We talked so much about empathy yesterday. You wouldn't understand someone's problem until you put yourself in that person's position. Now, it's really unfortunate. In the north, thank God for the effort of the government. In Nigeria, I'm very sure you've heard of the Boko Haram insurgency in Nigeria, the rate of kidnapping, but thank God for the present government. Now, these people are being rehabilitated, those that have surrendered. And surprisingly, when you hear from them, they tell you they never knew. It means they've been living in the dark. And literally, Boko Haram means against the Western education. But what is education? To change. So if you look at it, to them what they are doing seems good until they are being educated on what the Western education is. It encourages teachers to see themselves as global citizens, act as global citizens, collaborate to foster unity and peaceful coexistence, to develop the required skills and application of social emotion. The teacher needs to become an efficient teacher. Now, the way forward, I didn't put more illustration here, but how do we go about having GCED? Okay, time. Yeah, I said, you and I, as team players, you know more about GCED. I know about GCED. So if we don't team up, it will be a very difficult situation for us. The stakeholders in education, continual advocacy and sensitization, political will by political office holders and top government officials. These factors come together to make GCED possible. The conclusion, as a teacher or stakeholders, we should learn to transform vision into practice, action, and also know that, one, GCED is about dialogue and not about the imposition of one's view or idea. GCED is for learning together. GCED is student-centered. GCED is a transformative education. GCED is multidisciplinary and can be integrated into existing curricula and subject areas. Leave no one behind. Act now and not tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Bisala. Any questions, clarification questions for Bisala's presentation? Yes.
I'm from UNESCO CEU. Thank you very much for your presentation. And it was very interesting that the first speaker shared the example and cases of how GCED-related topics are taught in TEIs, teacher education institutions in Georgia. And I wonder, is there any kind of TEIs in Nigeria that are taught in topics in related GCED? Thank you.
Well, in Nigeria, there's a subject which is known as civic education, but we need more. we need more. For instance, the Nigerian curriculum is so, the subjects are so many. You see a basic student being offered about 10, 12 subjects. So we need a specific topic or subject that will center more on GCED. So there's a subject that covers that, which is known as civic education. Then it used to be called social studies, but because of the invent of GCED, it's now called civic education. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Basala. I'm sure we'll have him back for part of our lively discussion afterward. And now for the third and final presentation, I'd like to invite Seraphin to come up and present, please.
Good morning, everyone. My presentation is about interdisciplinary GCED for tertiary and pre-service education in the Philippines, particularly the initiatives of GCED Cooperation Center. How to? This one? Okay, this is our small office at the Philippine Normal University. We are the National Center of Teacher Education in the Philippines, where we try to mainstream GCED not only in the public school system but also in teacher education system. Our mantra is we are living in one world, we are learning for one world. We signed the Memorandum of Agreement between PNU and UNESCO UPCEU sometimes in 2019 via online because this is a pandemic season. Our vision is to be the center of global citizenship education, promote the advancement in the Philippines and beyond, to conduct evidence-based, data-driven, and high-impact GCED training, research undertaking, and advocacy campaign relevant to global citizenship education and meaningful for the Philippines and education stakeholders. These are some of our quality objectives and programs. The first one is the development of GCC Operations Manual. As you may know, it is hard to implement something which is very new in our university if you do not have an operation manual that will guide us in the different processes of the university. Second is institutional capacity building. So we will show you this one, including our university president are present in crafting the manual. And this is the published operation manual for the Cooperation Center, wherein we are guided by the different processes in the university and how to deal with financial and how to deal with other aspects of administration. Number two, we are very much interested that GCED is not just a buy-in of our center, but it is a wild range faculty member development program, wherein we capacitate our faculty members on how to integrate GCED not only in the social science department, but also in science, in mathematics, in educational science, both in graduate and undergraduate level. We have a total 200 faculty members, and out of the 200 faculty members, 49, including administrative employees, finished the GCED 101 of UNESCO UPCEU. In order for them to attend the face-to-face training, they have to finish this particular online training. This is the foundation of all the trainings at our university. We also have not only our faculty member, we also include our administrative staff. For example, our guidance counselor, our admission office is, the main question is, how is our admission procedure become GCED? Is our admission procedure inclusive, including those who are not Catholic, those who are a member of LGBTQ, those who are a member of persons with disability. So one of our staff at the admission office has this project on making admission in the university inclusive. Another one of our staff is in the canteen, food. How is GCED integrated in the preparation of food with regards to the problem of sustainable development, waste, and also the culture of our students? Are they exposed to other nations' food? So this is the main reason why our administrative staff are also included in the training for GCED. We would like to make our school a whole school approach, which means it is not only the curriculum, it is not only the faculty member, but also the administrative staff. Okay, project number 3 is scoping research on GCED in the Philippines. We want to know if GCED is already in the literature as far as the different research journal we have in the university. So we have 3 research journal in the university, and we identified 359 researches in our journals that have articles qualified that there is already a semblance of GCED themes, like 32%. We are also very active in the social media, where we promote GCED in our website and social media account. Project number 5 is needs analysis and baseline data gathering on GCC training for teachers and school head. We did this last year, and now we are implementing training programs. The basis of our training programs in training teachers is the needs analysis. We want to make sure that we are not duplicating the projects and programs of GCED, of other institutions, and we want it research-based and data-driven. We have developed research instrument on how to identify the training needs of our teachers in the field. And this is what we are very excited about. We have established the GCED network in the Philippines. As you may know, we are composed of 7,107 islands and around 15 regions. And PNU, although a lot of the faculty are capacitated on GCED, but we cannot be around in the different regions. So we identified champions in different parts of the Philippines. We signed a memorandum of agreement with these particular universities in the region. And as of now, we have 17, and this year we will add 8 more. So this is the map. So this is the map of the Philippines. So we identified different regional hubs in the country where they will be training the other institution, pre-service higher education institution in their region. Because we are located in NCR, and it is very hard for us to travel to Visayas and Mindanao, and also in the northern part of the Philippines. We thought of capacitating this 17 plus 8, so 25 focal persons on GCED, and they are the ones training them. Like what is happening now in UNESCO APCU. They call some of their training are training of trainers. So we want to replicate that in the Philippines. When we train them as trainer, so they will not be dependent on the different experts in Manila, but these particular regional hubs are experts on their own. They contextualize the learnings that they had for GCC Philippines in their own way. For example, here in Mindanao, there are some animosities because of historical grievances of the Muslim to Christian majority. So the focus of GCED here is peace education. So most of our regional hubs in Mindanao will really focus on the role of peace education in promoting global citizenship. So that is where contextualization is happening. And last but not the least, we train our staff to come here in Seoul for benchmarking, visit, and also for some input coming from APCU last year. So these are the visit to the Seoul National University, where we met a professor who are very much in line with the Filipino culture, expert on Filipino culture. We also participated in the 7th ICON conference last year. This is our visit to Seoul Dailim Elementary School last year, wherein we learned a lot from the exchanges with teachers, especially how they integrate GCED in co-curricular programs and after-school work. For this year, we are happy to share with you our initiative of harmonizing the effort of Philippine government and UNESCO APCU in the Philippines as far as GCED mainstreaming. We have invited KPTEP, the Korean Teacher Exchange Program. Also, we have invited our regional hub for the first time. Some of them are here in this room. We have invited the different scholars and researchers to the first international GCC conference held in Boracay Island only 2 weeks ago, October 4 to 6. This is and also APCU is also invited to join our GCC regional hub and GCC Malaysia and GCC Thailand. These are some of the output of this conference is a roadmap for GCED mainstreaming in the Philippines that will be presented to the Commission on Higher Education and Department of Education. We have 2024 to 2029 roadmap where we will be integrating GCED further in the different region. These are some of the pictures. So I have 5 minutes. So ways forward. In terms of research and policy development, this priority focus on establishing reputable research journal on GCED and magazine that showcased Philippine context of GCED initiative, to provide scholar a venue for publication of GCED research articles and to publish meaningful, timely scientific research on GCED. We have started this year, we call that Paghabi, the GCED research journal in the Philippines, where we got financial assistance from the Commission on Higher Education. In terms of advocacy and regional advancement, we will provide financial support for the GCC regional hubs through the GCC Philippines, and we will participate in more networking activities to strengthen the network nationwide. For curriculum innovation, we will integrate GCED in various programs of TEIs and HEI. As of the moment, we are already integrating GCED in the professional education and general education courses of all students taking education. And we will conduct various curriculum integration activities to embed GCED in the curricular program and to audit curricular alignment of various courses. For training and development, we will facilitate understanding of faculty and staff on GCED and its important role in achieving sustainable development goals and Philippine Development Plan's target. And we will provide capacity building for teachers in TEIs and HEI faculty and staff on how to apply GCED in the classroom delivery and administrative work. And we will integrate GCED in various QA mechanism, quality assurance mechanism, using the whole school approach. Thank you very much and good morning.
Questions. So thanks very much, Seraphin, for your presentation. Any comments, questions for Seraphin before we move to the panel discussion? Yes, please.
Well, I'm from Pakistan, and I would like to ask, what are the challenges faced by the community or by the government side, from the government side, while integrating the GCED with your curriculum?
Challenges.
Challenges faced by you.
Challenges faced by our center and myself is when we were integrating this particular report is including the pandemic period. When we were integrating GCED, it was already pandemic and we are doing it online. And the challenges is really connectivity. But now that we are open already, the economy is opening, we are doing a lot of recalibration because what we did, the focus of integration during the pandemic is how to survive, safety, security. But now we are more of recalibrating it in order to integrate other themes of GCED like human rights education, education for sustainable development, and peace education. Thank you.
Any other quick comments or clarifications for Seraphin?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Luis Maylim from Iloilo City, Philippines. I am from a maritime university, and I'm very interested to be part of to have a network with GCC Philippines. Would there be any possibility that you accommodate a maritime university that does not specialize in teacher education for networking and capacity building as well?
Well, the main reason for identifying regional hubs because of interdisciplinary approach or multidisciplinary approach. The expertise of PNU is teacher education. But when we identified Mindanao State University as a focal university in the region, their expertise is peace education. So it complements. So we welcome your university, even though you are a maritime education university, it will add up to this multidisciplinary approach in embedding maritime studies in GCED. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now I'd like to invite all of our panelists up to the front table. And I think we're going to turn the projection off because it beams into people's eyes, which is why our speakers were all sitting at this side table. So if our speakers will all come up and join us on the table, we'll now have an opportunity for some dialogue. Okay, so I hope you're all thinking about formulating some questions and some provocative statements and things that can help stimulate a good discussion for the panel that you just heard. I don't know about you, but I was pleased to see such a diverse and rich range of contexts and perspectives that each one of our colleagues shared with us today. I mean, there's so many different things that one could really like to delve into, but I was particularly intrigued, Natia, when you opened up by mentioning how much you're working in a context of post-Soviet mindset, and I wonder if in a minute I'm gonna put a provocative question to each one of you and then invite you to kind of respond so you can think about it a little bit, but I'm really intrigued to wonder what that means specifically, and also, I mean, we now have global citizenship education as a concept, but it probably existed even before we named it, right? Even in the Soviet era, there were likely attempts to have a kind of more of an international mindset. And so I want you to just think a little bit about what changed in the post-Soviet era and in relation to global citizenship education in particular. For Bisala, I mean, lots of interesting points as well that you shared with us. One that really stood out to me was when you said, ever since I learned about GCED, I never relented. And you exhibited quite a lot of determination, I think, in your adherence to global citizenship education. And I wonder if you can maybe just, in a moment, you could be thinking about it, but if you can share with us what it was that really instilled that level of determination in you. What was it about global citizenship education that really inspired you to kind of stick with it and see it as such a valuable approach to tertiary and pre-service education in particular. And then for Seraphin, again, lots of really interesting elements in your presentation. The one I want to focus on, what I really appreciated was when you shared with us the whole school approach, in particular the efforts to make sure that administrative staff were also included. And I think that's a really interesting notion because they're often left out of capacity building, training kind of efforts in institutions. And I thought you made a really good case for why they should be included as part of your embrace of global citizenship education in your pre-service teacher training efforts. So those are some opening thoughts that I'd like each of you to respond to, starting with Natia.
Thank you very much, Christopher, for this question. Even if I was born in Soviet time, unfortunately, I cannot say that I'm an expert of these changes or how these changes are really happening. But I know what we are trying. To be honest, I cannot say what really has been changed by today, but generally, we mentioned many times about responsibilities, and our colleague from Philippines mentioned about sense of belonging. It's really crucial how individuals are having this responsibility to build something together with the society. Personally, from my perspective, that can be the main different characteristics between Soviet and today's time, because every individual has a kind of unique role to play, not somewhere in the corner of the universe, closed and far from everybody and far from everything, but every individual is important for everybody. This is a more global perspective, and this is what we are trying to give to future generation, because doors are open and everybody can play, as I said, crucial role. And it's really different from Soviet perspective. And yesterday it was mentioned many times about whole school approach, and our colleague from Philippines also mentioned about this. And yesterday, maybe it was you who mentioned about whole community role as well. This is very different from Soviet time. Now we are trying to keep this whole school approach as a main context, main concept in our education system, but not only for, I'm not only about whole school approach, it's like whole institutional approach, and it's whole system approach, that everybody is part of the system, everybody is playing crucial role, everybody can be important and should be important and is important. This is like, it's not a philosophical message, but it's a reality we want to make together. Everybody is part of the society, and this cycle, whole school approach, whole community approach, whole system approach, plays the key role to build better future, better universe for everybody.
Okay, thanks. Let's give that a round of applause, I think. So for really putting you on the spot with a challenging question, so thanks a lot for that. Bisala, your motivation and determination to really apply global citizenship education in your work around pre-service training.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I personally am a kind of person that always seek to know, and I go extra length to know and understand. Well, GCED or AppCU in particular was introduced to me in the year 2022 by a colleague of mine who has done a lot of GCE online, taking a lot of GCE online courses. And ever since he told me, I picked up the interest. And today here I am as a partial global citizen. I use that word partial because I'm still learning, and learning never stops. Then about the teacher in-service teachers education. Sincerely speaking again, throughout my university days, none of my lecturers, I took an educational course, and I can tell you, none of my lecturers have ever said anything related to GCED. Peace education, the need for collaboration. Well, possibly they may have said such, but in my absence. But all lectures I've attended, nobody. It was just a traditional way of teaching. Take, go. They don't learn from us. And secondly, with the number of undergraduate teachers or students or learners that I've come across, especially those at the university levels, none have come across GCED. Even those that have heard about the SDG, they don't know the agendas. They just know, oh, there's something about SDG. It's talking about, it belongs to the United Nations. But they don't know what it's all about. That's why I see the need and importance for GCED to be inculcated into the teachers' training education. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks. Let's give that a round of applause as well. And then, Seraphin, over to you again, and the particular focus on the whole school approach that you shared with us, and maybe also just thinking about it, is that typical across other activities and efforts that you do in your center, or was it something that particularly came up in relation to global citizenship education?
It was particularly came up because of our curriculum mapping that we did for the last 2 years, where we identified what are the subjects in the K-12 curriculum with GCED integration already, and what are the subjects with partial integration. And after doing that for 2 years, we realized that we have a good curriculum where the GCED is integration, but radicalization, anti-Islamic, anti-Semitism are also happening around the university or around the school. Why is that happening? The curriculum is already integrated. So the whole school approach came in order to invite the parents, the community, to have a dialogue on what GCED is all about, and because GCED is about an inclusive, peaceful, and sustainable society. The curriculum cannot offer that alone. We need administrative staff to make the school a very peaceful one. We need the parents. We need the media and social media, because radicalism, especially in our South, is happening among university students. They are being recruited. In one of our workshops, they said that one of my youth Muslim participants said, are jihadis also a global citizen? They asked me, because they also work for cross boundaries. They also work for a cause. So I need to remind him that global citizenship that we are advocating is for inclusive, peaceful. The result is inclusive, peaceful, and sustainable society, not destruction and violence. And that's what a global citizen that we are advocating, different from the global citizen that the other group are advocating. So this is where the whole school approach needed. We need the community, we need the media, we need the curriculum, teachers, and administrative staff to come together. And we would like to do it. We started already doing it in our Center for Teaching and Learning, our high school and elementary department, where they are doing the curriculum, they are doing training for administrative staff, so that we can showcase what a GCED model school is. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm sure you're all bursting with questions. for those questions. So I'm going to take a couple of questions and then we'll put those to our panelists, and then we hopefully will have time for other rounds of questions. Let's see how it goes. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, the moderator, for the opportunity. My name is Sulaiman Bukar. I'm the founder and executive director of Northeast Youth Peace Ambassadors Network, a non-governmental organization in Nigeria that works to promote peace. And I have this to contribute with regard to the second panelist, Sarah Pin, who is talking about integrating global citizenship in the Philippines. Because I am also one of the facilitators that do facilitate workshops in the Philippines. And I want to advise that civil society organizations are very important when it comes to peace building. So there is their need for you to see how you can collaborate with some civil society organizations, because their own part, they play a role from the non-formal aspect, while the universities play a role from the formal aspect. So their own role is informally, where they will have a kind of how to engage community members in promoting peace, how to engage community members to make them a responsible and active citizens, which will promote development. So that is it about this one. With regard to the Nigerian context, I would like to use this opportunity to talk to the person that is representing Nigeria, most especially about incorporating civil society organizations too. Why? Because in Nigeria, most especially in the region I came from, where he was is more than 1,000 kilometers between my location and his own. So I live in a place that is that experienced more than a decade-long destructive activities of Boko Haram insurgency group. I was a target several times. They made an attempt to kill me several times. I received some SMS several times that that is like going against what we are doing. If you do not stop it, we'll have a way of reaching out to you and to eliminate you, because I'm the organizer of the Youth Peace Summit, an annual event that we normally converge. We call on the attention of youth to come and discuss about importance of peace and have a way forward. So I want to suggest to the person, because he's from Federal Ministry of Education, for the Ministry of Education to have a way of collaborating with civil society organizations, because they have a lot to offer. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Let's have another question. Yep, please go ahead.
Hi, I have a question for Natia. Not about your presentation, but about your experience as a woman in GCED. So I wanted to ask, to what extent are women actively involved in GCED promotion in Georgia? And more broadly, do you think there are barriers for women, to be involved in this conversation? I mean, just looking at the conference, the space, and yesterday the speakers, so it's more men, right? So I just wanted to know your insights. I mean, you told us to ask controversial questions, so yeah.
Good, thanks. Any other controversial questions or non-controversial questions? Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. It's not a question, it's just kind of a suggestion. I think that the biggest hurdle to peace and the global citizenship education is poverty. I suggest that technical education should also be part of global citizenship education, so that people can improve their economic condition and think beyond just filling their stomach. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So with those 3 questions or comments, let's have a round of responses from our panelists. And maybe we'll start at the other end of the table with Bisala and work our way down.
Okay, thank you very much. Suleiman Bukar. Yeah. Seriously, I think this is one of the aims of GCED, getting to know ourselves, our culture, and that collaboration. And more interestingly, we are from the same zone, regardless of the fact that I work in a different zone. But our side, we stay in the same region where for the past years has really been a red spot. And just as we discussed, I said we have a lot to play, especially with your organization. And for that collaboration, the Ministry of Education as a whole does nothing without involving the CSO, that is civil society organization. And knowing you, and you being a resident of that place, I think you have a very important role to play when it comes to collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Education. So knowing you is not a coincidence, but nature-based. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Actually, on the point about involving civil society, does anybody in the room think it's possible to really advance with global citizenship education without involving civil society? Is there a path towards effective GCED without civil society partnership? No. Sorry, what?
It's not possible to implement the GCED concept without the involvement of CSOs. CSOs are very much important to implement the concept.
Yeah,
Good.
can I address that also? For example, we want to implement GCED themes as far as peace education is concerned. We have, in the academe, we have a lot of theories, have a lot of conceptual underpinnings of peace and how to resolve conflict and how to bring about peace in the school. But example of really conflict transformation are in the community, and it is being implemented by civil society organizations, specifically in Mindanao. So teaching peace with civil society organization is a very, very important aspect, because trauma, healing, and conflict transformation are not within the bound of the school, but it is within the bound of the community. So we really need the civil society organization. I'd like to address another comment about involving technical education in order to promote GCED. Yes, it is important that our students are fed well. According to SDG number 1 is zero hunger, no poverty. It is difficult to teach GCED or any other subject to our student if they are hungry. So in the Philippine context, we have the national feeding program, especially in the different localities outside of the cities, wherein we make sure that students are well fed, nutritious food, and on time. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. And then, Natia, over to you and the particular question that was put to you.
Thank you very much for this very, very important question about women's participation in global citizenship education. You mentioned about my personal experience. But first of all, I want to mention that teaching as a profession, as a de facto in Georgia, is a women-driven profession. Teachers are mostly women working almost the same in every country, I think. So at the end of the day, maybe decisions are made by male politicians, but in the classrooms, teachers are main actors forming students' mentality. That's why it's crucially important what's happening between them or with them. Coming from my personal experience, I was in this area since 2007, But before I was teacher, and I was teaching Georgian literature and language and literature, and also citizenship topics. And today I'm a focal point of global citizenship education in Georgia, in the frame of APSEU project, and I work for the Council of Europe, and I've been EDCHR Education for Democratic Citizenship and Human Rights Education Coordinator for Georgia. I'm part of EPAN network, which is responsible for implementation of reference framework for competencies for democratic culture, and I'm a woman. So I cannot say that I've ever had any problem in this way in terms of the implementation or any barriers or anything. I'm not saying this because my director is sitting there. No, I'm not saying this. No. He is always supporting and he is giving freedom, and I swear I'm not saying this because he's here. And yeah, you can go out very but it's about my personal experience, but generally women are part of this vulnerable society in Georgia, especially in some regions where minorities are living compactly. That's why we are having special programs and special supporting mechanisms to invest more and more in this area. I'm saying that I've never had any problem in this work, but it's not like general context. We know that we have to support more and more who are main actors, teachers, women who are having different social problems, different social challenges in the different regions. It's a small country, but it's very multicultural country. So that's why it's very important to think about this, what you asked. So thank you very much.
Thanks. Yep. In fact, I'm sure we could have a whole session just talking about gender and gender equality and global citizenship education. But it does also bring up a point that I wanted to circle back to, which I think Serafin mentioned in his presentation as well, which is whether it's the inclusion and involvement of women or minorities or other vulnerable groups. You mentioned LGBTQ and learners with disabilities. I mean, how critical is it that, I mean, of course, this is probably a loaded question. I think we strive to make sure that we are broadly inclusive in all of our education programs. But when it comes to global citizenship education in particular, what thoughts can you share with us about, again, you brought up LGBTQ and learners with disabilities. You've just made some comments about women's engagement and the fact that a majority of teachers are women in most countries, I think would be a safe bet to say. So what does it mean, global citizenship education and inclusive education? I'm going to ask each one of you to respond to that. And Serafin, you can go first, perhaps, and then we'll have Natia and then Bisala.
Well, one example of that is when we had a graduation and in our university, and students are clamoring for inclusivity in terms of the way they dress, and because traditionally, even if you are a member of LGBTQ community, you have to, if you're a girl, you have to wear the barot saya or the dress, and if you're a boy, you need to wear the barong or traditional male outfit. But because of the clamor of the clamor of the student, and also this particular workshop aspects of GCED with our gender and development, the university has promulgated an inclusive graduation ceremony, wherein they allowed the university allowed identity-based expression as far as the dress is concerned. But we have regulations like even if you are a man and you will dress like a woman, there are some regulations to follow. Like the length of the skirt, okay, the length of the color of the hair. Okay.
And that was really because of global citizenship education.
Because of our gender-based global citizenship education workshop with faculty members and students.
Okay, well, there we go. Let's give that a round of applause. Sala, inclusive education in GCED.
Yeah, in Nigeria, it's partially inclusive when it comes to GCED, because in some part of the areas, in some part of Nigeria, there's this tradition that the female gender are looked upon as the less important people. They are not really carried along when it comes to decision making. But interestingly, the narration is changing because of the high level of advocacy which is taking place and sensitization. Women are now coming up to say, no, this is a home. I should be part of the policy makers, decision makers, which translates to the community, then to the society. Let me say, the last election we had, I think there were so many women that came up and said, yes, we are part of this. Therefore, equality should come into play. And if you don't want to really use equality, let's look at empathy. Let's employ empathy. How do you feel if you're being deprived of having this position which you are? Apply empathy. And it's working in Nigeria. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's a hopeful commentary on the situation in Nigeria. And Natia,
Talking about inclusivity, for me, inclusivity means everybody's involvement, literally everybody's involvement. And our colleague from Nigeria mentioned in his presentation about taking actions. Who is taking action? Everybody. It's everybody's responsibility. And also it's everybody's freedom. And in your first question to me, you mentioned about the differences between Soviet and post-Soviet or today's world, and it's the same. I'm responsible to take an action, not tomorrow, but today, as Mr. Salah mentioned. So inclusivity means that everybody has this responsibility and also freedom to take an action. We talked about the participation of civil society organizations, about the youth, and literally everybody's. So we have to teach to our students that everybody has this responsibility and the freedom to take an action. This is the inclusivity for me. And global citizenship also.
of course, thank you very much. I'm getting warning signs over here that we have 1 minute to go before lunch. It seems kind of early to be having lunch at 11:30 after breakfast, but anyway. So in the remaining short amount of time that we have, to, first of all, thank you, the audience, for your participation and your engagement and your questions. Thanks very much. Give yourselves a round of applause. And especially to our panelists, and I'd like to invite them to have the last word and share any kind of overarching thoughts that you might have from the session that really impressed you, whether it was something that came from the audience or from one of your fellow panelists. What's a big take-home message for you from this session, starting with Bisala?
Thank you very much once again. I think my take-home statements or words are, let's employ empathy in everything we do. Let's look at equality. Nobody is less than you. Let's forget about material things. But there's blood running in you. There's blood running in me. Empathy, equity, and let's take action collaboratively. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bisala, and now Seraphin.
Thank you very much. We have been advocating GCED and other themes like peace education, human rights education, education for democratic citizenship. But the war in Ukraine is happening. The war in Gaza is happening. There's a lot of people dying because of protracted conflict. We have a lot of things to do as educators, as parents and teachers. We are talking a lot of curriculum integration, curriculum involvement, whole school approach, but I feel that it is not enough because children, people are dying because of war. And if we will not have a collective push in this particular endeavor, G said, everyone will be put on the trap, like what is happening for a child in Gaza Strip, bombarded by Israeli strike. We need to learn and unlearn about the future that we have in order to make GCED as a tool to stop the conflict and war. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Putting a lot of pressure on and expectations on global citizenship education as well, but I don't disagree. And Natia, final word.
Listening to my colleagues and thinking about the global context we are living in, the main takeaway from my side would be that global citizenship education is something luxury thing for maybe for some countries, but for some countries and societies, this is the tool given to survive. So it's needed for everybody. With or without the great expectations, it's something really crucial. So we have to keep it. Thank you.
Great. I think that's a really good concluding comment. Thank you, Natia. All right, so that's it for this session. Thank you all again for your engagement and participation. And I believe now we're invited to head downstairs to the lower level if the elevators cooperate for lunch. Thank you.